You may have loved receiving chocolates yesterday for the Valentine's Day holiday, but you will not love the outcome if your pet gets into your treats. Here with some important safety information for all pet owners, we welcome back veterinarian Dr. Cherice Roth. Always great to see you.
Me too. Hello.
This is a really good time.
Perfect timing, right?
I have so much chocolate and treats all over my house.
The struggle
it was fun,
is real.
but now my dog is investigating.
Yes, the curiosity.
So there are various forms and types of chocolate, and it can depend how dangerous that is to your pet.
That's exactly right. So chocolate contains a chemical called theobromine, and it happens to be a chemical that pets, dogs and cats mostly, can't actually process correctly.
Okay.
And so it leads to a toxicity profile is what we would call that. So the ones that I worry about the least are your white chocolates. They have the lowest amount of the theobromine in it. But as you start to increase the amount of cacao, the chocolate in the candy, that's when you start to see real problems.
Okay.
And so I had set up, there's lots of different varieties.
Yes.
And these are just, I picked out some that are typically given as gifts.
Yeah, super common things you recognize.
Or in your cabinet if you're a baker. I'm not, because I can't follow instructions. But as you can see, there's definitely a change in even how we react to our chocolate ourselves. The dark chocolates are heart healthy, all of those sorts of things. And so we've seen commercially darker chocolates or higher concentration of the cacao being included, with the most dangerous actually being the 60s and the 70%. And those are now, again, kind of given as gifts. And baking chocolate is typically extremely high cacao, and so those are the most dangerous. We really start to see pets have issues.
So delicious to us, but dangerous. And you mentioned cats as well. I hadn't heard that before, that it's not safe for the kitty cats either.
Yeah, it's not safe for them, but no self-respecting cat will be caught dead eating chocolate. But it has happened. I have had feline patients come in for chocolate toxicity.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, so you have some basic suggestions of what to do if you're in a panic and you're not, you know that the dog or the cat has had some chocolate. Where do we turn first?
Yeah, I would say even if you suspect it, even if you're not 100% sure, it is worth doing something about it. So the first is don't freak out. Please don't freak out, because that doesn't help anybody. Yeah, and then collect as much information about that chocolate as you can. If you can bring in the wrapper, if that hasn't been eaten along with it, get a picture or a portion of the bag. We see this all the time, and so we may be able to deduce, even if you just have a corner of the bag, that we can help or get a picture of it. The next step is the most important. Call the pet poison control line. And the reason for that is that if the amount is high enough, they may give you instructions to make your pet vomit at home. Now, it's not something that you just want to do willy-nilly, because there are some breeds that you can really harm them by making them vomit at home. And so you need a veterinarian there ready to act if they get in trouble. But that's really the way to go, and they're going to instruct you, hey, that's not a big deal, or hey, this is really serious, you need to go to an emergency room right now.
Are there any things to keep on hand in case of that, or is it more of just, if it is that serious, you'll need to get to an emergency vet? Yeah,
I think it kind of goes into my pet first aid kit, right? Hydrogen peroxide. There is a chance that the pet poison helpline, depending on the level of toxicity and how far away you are from an emergency room, that they may recommend that you make your pet vomit. And so that's typically what we recommend at home. Never use salt to make your pet vomit, but hydrogen peroxide with the right discussion along with it and instructions is what we do. And then there's aftercare. Even if you make them vomit, there's typically aftercare for the esophagus, but just from pouring in the hydrogen peroxide.
Those poor little babies. We gotta keep them away from the chocolate.
Right?
We don't want this to happen in the first place. And then going off of that, depending on the size, the weight of the pet, and how much they've ingested, you have some guidelines as well, and kind of what to expect and what the symptoms might be. Yeah, absolutely. So with the white chocolate, really doesn't matter the size of the dog. It's really hard for them to get into big trouble unless it's a teeny tiny dog that's eaten a whole bag of it. But as you go up in the concentration of the cacao, the smaller the amount, the more toxic it is. Oh no.
Yes. And so for that one on the end, that 72%, it only takes a few chocolate chips for a 10-pound dog to be in really big trouble.
Oh no.
And so even when you're baking or any of those sorts of things, you really have to keep a close eye, because you may not even notice that they got into it, and then suddenly they're vomiting a little bit, or then by the time they have diarrhea, it's too late. But usually they'll vomit, and it can even progress to kind of staggering around, feeling unwell, all the way up to actually cardiac arrhythmias, seizures. And I've lost patients to chocolate ingestion. They are those really tiny ones that just get into just the worst kind of chocolate.
So even if they get some of it out, you might not be out of the woods yet.
That's exactly right. So that is very typical, depending on what they got into and their size. I typically hospitalize these guys if it is something that I'm concerned about. It also matters how long they've had it in their system. And that looks like hospitalization, IV fluids. We check blood work to see how the liver and kidneys are doing, and we really monitor that cardiac. So they'll be wearing an ECG monitor, electrocardiogram monitor.
Oh my goodness. Okay, and then bigger 20 to 50 pound dogs, kind of different hallmarks for them?
Yeah, it's going to be the vomiting piece of it. But again, I mean, if it's a regular size lab that gets into baking chocolate, they're in just as much trouble, right? And that's where it gets really tricky of, oh, well, the last time you got into chocolate, maybe it was milk chocolate, but this time it's baking chocolate.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's where having that picture and helping us be able to identify exactly what got in helps us to help the pet the best we possibly can.
And what if it's a chocolate chip cookie, or what if it's something with a chocolate ingredient in it that doesn't seem that much to us as humans, but
it's usually the chocolate chip part of it.
Right.
Not so much the chocolate flavoring, because usually that's like a carob, which is actually safe for pets.
Okay.
So if you're going to bake or something like that, you could consider using a carob instead of actual chocolate.
Okay.
But typically, a chocolate chip cookie, a corner of one, those sorts of things, I don't worry too much about. Brownies, depends on how chocolatey you like your brownies, right? And so those are a bit more, the cookies are primarily flour, right? And so that's not as bad.
Our chore for tonight is to safely secure all of the chocolate in our house.
Secure the chocolate at all costs. I mean, you should be doing that anyway, because I'm a mom, right? There's a mom tax.
Yes.
For the chocolate.
Just enjoy your spoils already. Hey, great to see you. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you.
We'll have more on our website at katu.com, and we'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.